If you don't answer, I'll just ring it on the wall. I know we said, but I decided to go. We've been hanging on the telephone. We've been hanging on the telephone. I asked her mama, now she's going out the door. But did she go to work or just went to the store?
Well, here we are. Hello, Paul. Lovely to have you on the show. Welcome everybody in the audience to
hello everyone.
To that album.
Nice to see you.
Hi Beth. First one in
Beth.
this week. Yeah, and this week it's Parallel Lines, Blondie. So 1978, long time ago, but I can still remember it the first time. It's really funny, right? So my daughter, who obviously did the show with last week, she's 21. She's at uni. She's actually on a plane at the moment off to America. And so I went to pick her up from uni. She came home to get all her washing done, obviously, before she went. So I went to go and pick her up after last week's show. And then we were driving back and she said, so what are you doing next week? Parallel Lines. Should we listen to that in the car? So we put it on in the car.
Why not?
And she thinks she's cutting edge because she's listening to Parallel Lines. And obviously it's actually retro for this bunch, isn't it? But for us,
no, absolutely.
First time around.
I was listening to it earlier on, giving it one last listen before we went live with my 17-year-old son, and he just said it's quite good, this album, isn't it?
Well, that was really interesting. So I put it on in the car, and we were driving along, and I just thought, oh yeah, I know this one. Yeah, I know this one. Oh yeah, I know this one. And there were some things that really hit me like a bolt from the blue that I hadn't spotted before. So, for example, she's got a brilliant voice, hasn't she?
Yes, she has. And there's I was reading a review from about 10 years ago of someone talking about this album, and they're saying it's probably her best vocal performance on any Blondie or Debbie Harry album.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just
Deborah Harry.
No,
she's upgraded.
She'll always be Debbie. I said this to you the other day. Like the Eventim Apollo will always be Hammersmith Odeon.
Yeah, absolutely.
She will always be Debbie Harry.
Absolutely. So 1978, really interesting time. Obviously, remember this the first time around. The Winter of Discontent. Anna Ford became the first female newsreader. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was first broadcast. The Tories engaged Saatchi and Saatchi to win the election. Evita opened in the West End.
Okay.
Louise Brown, first IVF baby was.
Yes, I read that one.
IVF baby. I mean, how amazing is that, eh?
Yeah, and I remember that as a story as well.
Interesting other births. Matthew Good, the actor. Matthew Bellamy from
Muse.
Ramesh Ranganathan.
Okay, I didn't pick that one up. I've got another couple here. Guy Berryman from Coldplay.
Ah, right, yeah.
Born that year as well.
Who else have you got?
I've got Nicole Scherzinger.
Ah, yes.
Keeping the musical theme. There were some other interesting musical events that year as well.
That's the high point. The low point is that Matt Hancock and James Corden were both born that year.
Oh, right, okay. Well, James Corden, I always think all right because he's a West Ham supporter.
Yeah, well, that only goes so far, doesn't it, to make up the fact that he's a detestable individual. But anyway. So Superman the movie came out. Convoy. Do you remember Convoy?
I do remember Convoy.
Yeah, Convoy came out. Heaven Can Wait. Every Which Way But Loose. Grease. Wild Geese. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And some great music. Outlanders, The Moor, Police, The Man Machine, Kraftwerk, The Kick Inside, Kate Bush, City to City. What's his name? Jerry Rafferty.
Yep.
Van Halen. The Who Are You? And Live and Dangerous, Thin Lizzy.
Okay, so quite an exciting year music-wise. I mean, Prince also released his first single in 1978.
Did he?
Yeah.
I'm the biggest Prince fan in the world.
So what was his first single called? I didn't know this until today when again my son told me this. It's a very Prince song title.
Yeah, he had his little moustache at that point, didn't he? It was Sexy something or other.
It was called Soft and Wet.
Oh, nice. Nice. Yeah. Very Prince, as you said.
But I mean, taking me back to that time as well. So 1978, I just started secondary school, and for me, there was a big thing happening because the Sex Pistols had split up after their US tour, and Sid Vicious was also charged with the murder of his girlfriend. I mean, so there was, music, but non-music related news as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And of course, this. So what can you tell us about this?
Well, this album.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose this album. I remember my uncle buying this for my.
I take it this is someone to do with you.
Well, Sarah Burgess, yeah. Hello
Yes.
from the conservatory. This is unusual actually, because normally I'm watching Sarah's lives and saying hello from the kitchen, but I'm obviously not in the kitchen today. I'm in the family room. Hello, Sarah. This album. So my uncle bought me this album for my 12th birthday. So this was my first proper music album I remember owning. So I do have albums that predate this, but I'm not sure that Basil Brush or Junior Hits.
Or the Wombles.
I do have a Wombles album. Yeah, I do have a Wombles album. But this is my first proper music album. My uncle bought it for me 12th birthday. Debbie Harry was also my first crush. Musical crush.
You can say crush. That's fine.
Yeah. Yes, crush. I had posters up in my room. I had the calendar that year. I just love this album. I mean, I don't know. People can't see because haven't got that MG, but the album is one of the ones I've got up on the wall in this room. It's up there in my top 5. I would have thought. There's a bold statement.
Yeah, I see. I always found them okay, but yeah, and I think this is the thing. Nowadays we are spoilt with our access to music.
Absolutely.
When you're 12 years old, you save up your pocket money for 2 weeks and you go and buy a record in the record store. And when you go into the record store, you're flicking through the albums and you want to get Parallel Lines. And then you realize that actually The Kick Inside is just come out and you haven't bought that yet, or City to City, or Outlanders to More, or whatever else there is.
And you couldn't buy them all, could you? Because you only had a certain amount of pocket money, or you might have had a bit more money for a birthday or for Christmas or something.
Yeah.
But you had to choose what you wanted, and the choices were made on the singles you would have heard on the radio.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that one of the interesting things about this show for me has been that you're forced to listen to an album from start to finish multiple times during the course of the week. So you get the feel about whether or not this is an album as a cohesive whole, or whether or not it's just a series of good songs. And we've had some albums on that have been a series of good songs, great songs. But we've also had things on where you listen to it and you go, yeah, that makes sense. And it's not telling a story. It's not like War of the Worlds, which is a single story from start to finish, but they fit together beautifully in terms of the key of one and the time of one and the pace and all of the way that it moves through. And this was just one of those ones that passed me by. So obviously I knew quite a few of the songs on it, but I don't think I'd ever listened to the album. Right.
Okay. So there would be certain songs that you won't have heard before that are little classics in their own right.
Yeah, and and this is what I love about doing the show, where people bring other albums along, like Eric did and Andrea. Things that I may not have heard, and I get infected with their passion for these things. It's like, but did you listen to this bit over here? And I just love that, because you really get exposed to kind of the depth, and even just listening on my own to this album. Like I said, the first thing that hold on. So Out of the Blue was my first album that I bought with my money.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, which was
see, that's an album I've not listened to.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's one I need to do now.
Well, we did that. Eric and I did that quite early on in the series, and that was it was great to revisit that. That was every bit as good as I remembered it being.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like Debbie Harry's voice. Listening to it, not where I'm banging my head and jumping up and down, but where I'm actually listening to the music. Blown away by how good she was, and on some of the tracks that are not the famous tracks, you get to hear a little bit more of her voice.
Definitely.
So any numbers or anything interesting about awards or anything like that?
I haven't got anything about awards. I do know that it reached number one in the UK. It spent 4 weeks at number one, 106 weeks on the charts altogether. There were 4 singles in the UK. Obviously, we'll talk about those when we get to each of the songs. But 4 singles, 2 of which made number one. So in terms of a successful album, this was probably the most successful album for them. Eat to the Beat, the follow-up, was a fairly successful album as well. And when I'm thinking about Blondie and their albums, those are the 2 albums I'm thinking about, because I like stuff before and I like stuff after, but I didn't get into the albums as much as I did those particular 2 albums. Parallel Lines and Eat to the Beat were the 2 albums for me that defined that period of time as far as Blondie were concerned.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. So, it got to number one in the UK. NME put this as been placed at number 18 and 45 when they redid it on the 100 best albums of all time. On the 100 best albums of all time, number 18, and 45 on the 500 greatest albums of all time. Number 7 on Blender's 100 greatest American albums of all time. Number 94 on Channel 4's 2005 list, the 100 greatest albums of all time. Number 76 on Pitchfork's list of the best albums of all time. So that on Blender's 100 greatest American albums of all time. And I said this last week, I only learned fairly recently that Debbie Harry was in fact American.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So how I mean, clearly she's American. She's got an American accent. She's got
she's got quite a strong New York accent.
How can that have passed me by? I mean, obviously she broke it over here because no one was interested in America. But the fact remains that it's still stupid. But an interesting thing, as I was again, getting into the kind of nitty gritty of the album. I forget who it was that did the first 2 albums, but this album, Chapman was the guy.
Yeah, Mike Chapman. Part of Chinny Chap, who were a very successful duo, weren't they, in terms of production and writing songs and
like a Scott Aitken Waterman.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
But the talent. Chapman was struck not only by the looser style of songwriting, but the band's overwhelming lack of technical skill. He said.
Yes, no, absolutely. That's what he said. They were one of the worst bands technically he'd ever worked with.
Yeah,
and the fact that some of the time he'd say, "Right, are we ready to go with this next song?" And Debbie Harry would say, "Yeah, give us a couple of minutes," and she was still writing lyrics.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have so much of a problem with that, because Prince famously would be able to make up songs kind of on the spot almost. But yeah, just and you can hear it, in the same way that the Beatles and Fleetwood Mac was so phenomenally tight.
Yeah,
this band is so phenomenally not tight. It seems a bit hit and miss. But this did in the end sell over 20 million copies, and as you said, spent 106 weeks in the charts throughout the 70s, peaking at number one.
Yeah, so given their lack of technicality, given the last minute of writing some of the songs, given the fact that I don't think they particularly liked each other. Obviously, there was a relationship between Debbie Harry and Chris Stein, but I don't think the rest of the band particularly got on that well. No,
he said they hated each other and they were really childish about it.
Yeah, but they made some all right music though, didn't they? Given all that.
Yeah. So should we kick off with the first track, Hanging Up the Telephone? Oh. So interestingly, until hearing the album, I've never heard the intro. Only ever the main theme.
Okay. That's a different version to what I remember.
She's going out the door. But did she go to work or just went to the store? All the things she said, I told her to ignore. Oh, why can't we talk again? Oh, why can't we talk again? Oh, why can't we talk again? We've been hanging on the cell phone. We've been hanging on the cell phone.
Interesting that they didn't write this, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that was a real shock to me. Literally a couple of weeks ago, I didn't know until a couple of weeks ago that this was a cover version.
Yeah.
So the original was by a band called The Nerves, and I have tracked down a version of that by The Nerves, and that version, which predates it, I think, by a couple of years, is a much more raw, sort of basic take of the produced song that's the Blondie version. But yeah, that was a real surprise to me that it was a cover version.
Yeah, because this is so Blondie-like, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, it could have been written for them because it's so kind of in keeping with the rest of the stuff. So it didn't do very well in America at all, apparently, this. But it did get to number 5 in the UK. Only 2 minutes and 17 seconds long.
Yeah. But a lot of great songs are under that 3 minutes. In fact, I remember. So I do something similar to this show with a group of friends, and one of our themes to make a playlist was your best song under 2.5 minutes long, and there were some great songs there.
Help, the Beatles, definitely.
Yeah,
the best, one of the few perfect songs ever written, whether you're a Beatles fan or not.
Yeah. I think that's whether or not you like a particular band, sometimes you can appreciate the skill that goes in writing that perfect pop song, that perfect punk song, whatever it might be.
So a great start to the album. Interestingly, been covered by loads of other bands as well. Can you remember anyone else that's covered this?
I can't think of anyone who's covered this. I'm sure you're going to tell me otherwise, but I can't think of anyone who covers this.
Girls Aloud and Def Leppard are two people that have covered
this. Well, that's two very different versions right there.
Two extremes, yeah. But interestingly, it's been covered by multiple people, including Blondie, the band that we.
So interestingly, Adam. Right, here's a quick question for you: Girls Aloud and Def Leppard. Which one of those two bands have I seen live?
Girls Aloud.
I have seen Girls Aloud,
and the reason I would say that is because I would think that's the least likely one, and you wouldn't be posing the question if it was.
If I tell you I saw Girls Aloud as one of the support acts for Coldplay at Wembley Stadium, the other support act being Jay-Z.
Right.
And that
was. Were you impressed?
That. At the time, I was more impressed with Girls Aloud than I was with Jay-Z. I'm Coldplay. I love Coldplay anyway. So seeing them was a no-brainer. But out of the two support acts, I enjoyed Girls Aloud more than I did Jay-Z. Which people who like music might say that's the wrong way around. But there you go.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting, isn't it? Because I've seen my father-in-law used to get loads and loads of tickets, and no one else in the family was really interested in going and seeing diverse acts at Wembley or whatever, so I would often go with him. So I went and saw Rod Stewart and Neil Diamond and people like that. Yeah. Not people, nice, but not people you do. Some of them absolutely outstanding.
Yeah.
So Rod Stewart, 2.5 hours on stage, not a break. He was in his late 60s, early 70s when I saw him running around the stage, kicking footballs into the audience. Just unbelievable. I also saw the Spice Girls live.
I've seen the Spice Girls twice.
They were dreadful. When I saw them, utterly shocking.
They were. I thought they were pretty good. And I've then since after the Spice Girls, I saw Melanie C do her own show. That was really good.
Yeah. Well, she's one of the most successful female artists of all time, isn't she?
She is.
So
and there's a family link because my 17-year-old has met her. He's met her since he started at music college this year. So
nice. I bet she's lovely.
Well, apparently so. I asked if I could go along and say hello as well, but he said that wouldn't be cool.
It would for you. Anyway, on to track 2. One way or another. So, what have you discovered about this song? What do you already know about this song?
Well, one way or another was written by the bassist Nigel Harrison, who is British. He's the only British member of the band. It's featured in the film Coyote Ugly, if you know that film.
Yeah.
When the main character gets up on the bar, there's a horrible cover version of it that I'd rather not talk about. The One Direction cover version that I am talking about now, which they mashed up with my favourite song of all time, which is Teenage Kicks, and it makes my ears hurt.
Nice.
So for a while, the rest of my family would tell me that if I was playing the Blondie version of this song, that's that cover of the One Direction song, isn't it?
Yeah, and every time they said it, it's like a dagger to your heart.
Yeah.
So it's a song about a stalker. Nice. But it has been incredibly... Have you seen how many times this has been used?
Yeah, it's one of those songs, isn't it? It gets all over the place.
So in the movies, Little Darlings, Donnie Brasco, Beverly Hills Ninja, the Rugrats movie, Coyote Ugly, as you said, The Guru, Mean Girls, New York Minute, Seed of Chucky, nice, Aquamarine, and Ready Player One. This is used, and in the TV shows,
yes, Ready Player One, yeah, fantastic.
The A-Team, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Queer as Folk, Dawson's Creek, The Simpsons, Veronica Mars, ER, Psych, and Supernatural. So yeah, they've probably made a few quid out of royalties for this, haven't they?
Yeah, I would expect the reason a lot of films have picked it up is because of the lyrics. You know, one way or another. I mean, it's whatever's going on in the film. It's quite a nice song to throw in there if there's a decision to be made or if someone's doing something they're trying to achieve something. Yeah, it's got quite a good song to have to soundtrack that.
Yeah, and stalker songs are popular. So here's an interesting, not this stalker song, but another stalker song. I was doing a bit of research into Sting.
Yeah, is it? It's not Don't Stand so close to me. It's
Every Breath You Take.
Every Breath You Take. Yeah,
Every Breath You Take is his most successful song. So he's worth £300 million, and more than a quarter of his wealth has come from that one song. How amazing is that?
Wow. A song about a stalker that so many people probably have played at their wedding.
Yeah, one way or another I should have had it played at my wedding. Well, one way or another, I'm going to get you. So here we go.
Well, it's nice to know he's watching.
But not when he says things like that, you mean. So interestingly, when did she do a cover version of this live and a different version of this?
Oh, well, that's a good question because I don't know the answer to it.
When she was guest on The Muppet Show in 1981.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes, I remember her being on The Muppet Show. I don't remember her doing this, but she was dressed as a Boy Scout or something with the Muppets.
Yeah, I didn't check the video of that out, but
so I should tell you how I remember that. So when I was living at home, so growing up in my teens, one of the walls in my bedroom, I said to my dad, I want a montage of pictures of all my favourite pop artists and films and all this sort of stuff. So I spent hours cutting things out of magazines, and we stuck them all on the wall. And that picture of Debbie Harry with the Muppets dressed as a Boy Scout was one of the pictures that was on there.
Yeah, actually, your son said about a good One Direction song. This, interestingly though, they did do that as a special funny thing for Red Nose Day.
Yeah, it was comic relief. So I just wish they chose another two songs.
Yeah. So I'm in the car with my daughter. We come to song number 3. Picture this, and both look at each other and go, "It's all right, this album, isn't it?" So we've had 3 cracking songs as the first three songs on the album. So this was written by.
This was written by Debbie Harry. It's about some of the time she spent with Chris Stein, and as a young teenager, the lyric that really resonated with me was the "I will give you my finest hour," the one I spent watching you shower. I just thought, for some reason, that's always stuck with me as a lyric I will always remember. And I know Mike Chapman, when he was talking about them recording this, he said that it's a lovely song. It's obviously comes from the time they spent together and actually a really good relationship. Although didn't necessarily end up that way. But this was the first single, I think, off the album, and it reached number 12 in the UK.
Yeah, Chapman said about I've taken stuff from all over the place, and he said about Harry joked that I was so excited in Picture This, I rhymed solid with wallet, and I thought, wow, things are happening.
I had the conversation with Harry earlier on today, and he said, because obviously he's at college and he's writing songs himself. He said, actually, that's not that difficult, Dad, especially the way she sings. But if she's excited about it, that's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we go. Picture This. Actually, just before we play the rest of it, I just want to say there is a lyric in this that's absolutely fantastic, which is, I'll give you my finest hour. Oh, yeah. The next line, all I want is a photo in my wallet, a small remembrance of something more solid. All I want is a picture of you. That's pretty good. That's really nice. That's a nice bit of lyricism.
I'm reading the lyrics off the inner sleeve of the album here. Look.
Nice. Show off. Your first, is that, have you worn out a previous copy, or is that the first?
No, this is the original copy.
Nice. We've just got a comment on that, haven't we? How she goes from singing beautifully to that kind of bark when she sings. It's just beautiful.
Well, I think Andrew's mentioned that in one of the comments. I can see that he talks about singing very rough and then very soft and sweet, and that chopping and changing between the two.
Yeah, absolutely,
really good.
Brilliant, absolutely.
That guitar bit coming out of that last bit there. That's Chris Stein's guitar. It's a very grown up sound for a band that was still quite young, and it's the third album. I probably one of the songs that made them jump more into the mainstream, and people started saying, "Hang on a minute, a little bit more for everyone," rather than just the pop punk kids at CBGB's or wherever they were playing in New York.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I remember at the time, punk in all of its forms. So, whether it was this or the Sex Pistols or the Clash or the Police or whoever it was that was kind of like that punk movement, it seemed really out there and edgy, didn't it?
Yeah.
Now, 40 years down the line, listening to it again, it's like easy listening music, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether this album. I mean, would I class it as punk? Certainly, their first couple of albums were a little bit more punky in attitude. I would say I've seen it mentioned a couple of times in the comments. Pop punk is a good description. In the same way that Green Day, I think about as being pop punk. There's that crossover. I've also seen them described as power pop, which also is quite a nice description of some of the music they make.
Yeah. I know. I like that power pop. So Fade Away and Radiate. Now, I've not heard this one before.
Okay.
So
Do you know who's on guitar in this song? It's not just the band. There's another guest guitarist.
now I've got my notes here. No.
And it's quite a nice link with another favourite singer of mine from a similar sort of era.
Go on.
The guest guitarist on this is Robert Fripp.
Ah, yes, I did read that. That isn't in my notes. I did read that somewhere.
Yeah, so obviously the link there is I'm a massive Toyah Wilcox fan, so obviously they've been together for a long time now, a long time.
Yeah, did you see their lockdown concerts that they did every Sunday? A concert track every Sunday.
I'm aware of them. Yes.
Yeah. So Tim, my business partner, his mum lives in Pershore.
That's right. That's where they are. Yeah.
Which is where they are, and they went to some little concert or play or something that was put on a little theatre in Pershore.
Yeah.
So Tim and his partner Julie were sitting there, and then there was, I think, Toyah sitting next to him, and then Robert Fripp sitting next to her, and then he was by two seats. So there's an empty seat next to him because he doesn't like people crowding his personal space. But they found themselves sitting next to Robert Fripp and Toyah at a little community event.
So they're taking that Sunday lunchtime thing that they started during lockdown. They're actually taking that on tour, doing the Toyah and Robert thing. So I did think about going. I mean, I've seen Toyah live so many times over the years. Last time was fairly recently, actually, back end of last year. And I'm not sure I want to see that.
Okay.
I'd like to remember her singing the songs from the first few albums that I really loved.
She's still really good though.
Yeah, I mean,
this is. I mean, she is, isn't she? She is barking mad.
She's a little bit bonkers, and I think there are reasons behind that. Lady of a certain age, I think. Some of the certainly what I've read, some of the medication she's on has made her, a little bit more free and easy with what she shares, shall we say? I was trying to think the best way to say that.
Yeah. I mean, she's never been shy about coming forward, has she?
No. I've been fortunate. I know they say you should never meet your idols, but I've been fortunate enough to meet her and chat to her a couple of times. So she's lovely. She's lovely.
Okay, so Fade Away and Radiate with a bit of guest stuff from Robert Fripp.
Yeah.
Ooh, baby, I hear you spend nighttime wrapped like candy in a blue neon glow. Fade away and radiate. Fade away, radiate. Ooh, baby, watch those lines vibrate soft in brainwave time. Silver pictures move so slow. Golden tune.
So when I was listening to this for the first time, I thought this is more, in terms of how she's delivering the vocal, it's more what you would expect to hear in sort of a Ronnie Scott's type place, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I love the sparseness of the mix of the drums at the beginning. When you got a little bit of echo on the drum, but then her voice comes in. It's just brilliant.
Yeah. Now I am mindful of time because we are 4 tracks into a
talk. I was going to say, I've just looked at the time. We're 34 minutes in, and we haven't even covered the first side of the album yet.
So, Pretty Baby,
yes.
An ode to Brooke Shields' scandalous child character in the 1978 movie Pretty Baby. which was yeah. What have you got to say about this?
I really like her vocals in this because it goes from the we've talked about the different styles of vocals, the soft and sweet, and then the a little bit more raucous, if you like. But yeah, I love the way it swings between the two. It's not my favourite song on the album. I would say if there is a filler, it's probably one of those tracks that's a bit of a filler. That's it. I still know all the words though.
Pretty baby, you look so heavenly, honey, young nebula from under the sun. I was falling, some say I had my chance, the boys were falling.
So this has got that very kind of 1960s sort of vibe.
Yes.
You know, this could be
almost a surf rock type thing. You can imagine being by the beach listening to this, couldn't you?
Yeah, it's the sort of thing that all of the kind of great female singers of the 60s, you could imagine them delivering this song. And
I think extra marks to Debbie Harry for getting the words Neo Nebula in there. I'm not sure I know of any other songs where they use the words Neo Nebula.
No, it does. It's a song for everyone to sing along with. So I know, but I don't know. I must be honest and say that this next one left me a bit cold.
Yeah, and this has I think it's Frank Infant who shares the vocals with her on this. He wrote the song. I think it's him that shares the vocals in it. I just noticed that in old money, this is the last song on side one.
Fine.
So I would know it'd be time to turn over onto the second side.
Yeah. So this is the point when you run out to get another beer.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, I don't know.
Mind you, hearing it again now, it's much more punk-like than the other stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, much more. Garage rock, I suppose. You know, you imagine them jamming this in the rehearsal studios, not necessarily knowing what to write about. So I know, but I don't know. It gets repeated a lot, doesn't it? It's not the greatest song lyrically, is it?
No.
I'm your dog, but not your pet.
Yeah, no, other way around, isn't it? Oh no, it is that way.
Yeah, I'm your dog, but not your pet.
I'm your dog, but not your pet. Not a label most people would step up for. So first track, side 2, 1159. Allegedly, this is about because they had a big thing, obviously, for anyone young that's watching this show. The concept of the Cold War and the nuclear threat is a bit of an abstract concept, really, isn't it? Something you read about. Yeah. But it was a big thing for these guys, wasn't it? So Atomic and what was the other one? I did make a note of it. Atomic, and there was another song that was about the nuclear threat as well.
I can't remember. Can we just have a little moment to think about Atomic and what a great pop track that was? Just fantastic.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Not on this album.
Sadly. Not on this album, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm just want to get a little moment to think about it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Slow Motion was the other one.
Oh, Slow Motion. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Off Eat to the Beat. Yeah.
Yeah. So another good song.
I think it's a great song to open a side two with. It's just yeah, you're straight back in there. Let's go.
Leaning in your corner like a candidate for wax. Sidewalk social scientists don't get no satisfaction from your cigarette. It's tentative, time is running out. Lock up all your memories, get out of here. You know that we can run. Today can last another million years. Today could be the end of this. It's 11:59, and I want to stay alive. Pumping like a fugitive in cover from the night.
I think, again, one of the really interesting things about bands and songs from this period is that they don't all sound the same. And I think that's a marked contrast to where we are today. You know, most times you buy an album from a band and there's complete uniformity across what they produce.
You know what you're going to get because they've got the sound and that's it. Yeah.
And I think that this, you know, in contrast to I Know But I Don't Know and Pretty Baby before that and Fade Away,
Yes.
Radiate before that and Picture This, you know, they're like completely different. And some of them are anthemic and some of them are kind of like Pretty Baby, which is quite a bit of lollipop pop almost.
Yeah.
You know,
but still very much a Blondie sound, even though they're very different songs.
Absolutely.
Musically. And it's a great lyrics in this one. I was just looking at the opening two lines to that. Leaning in your corner like a candidate for wax. Sidewalk social scientists don't get no satisfaction from your cigarette. That's pretty good opening lines, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sidewalk social scientist.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I think is really interesting about a lot of bands that are successful, and it's not just bands, it's in every endeavor in life. The people that are leading the bands, because that's what we're talking about, are normally really clever people as well as being really committed people. You know, that's not the lyric that's written by an idiot, is it?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, and I think that when you uncover things like that and you go, yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
really.
No, this one. There's some other great, like Pumping Like a Fugitive in cover from the night is so descriptive, isn't it? You know what they mean, what they're talking about.
Yeah. So on to Will Anything Happen? Will anything happen?
Will anything happen? Who knows? We're going to get in some really good songs after this one.
Yeah. So this was written by Jack Lee of the Nerves again, who wrote Hang On the Telephone. And this was also included in Blondie's first archival project titled Against the Odds, 1974 to 1982.
Okay.
So here we are. Will Anything Happen? So that, absolutely, I can see that passage there as being the inspiration for Crash Boom Bang, the whole album by Roxette.
All right, okay.
Good group, and a great album. But just
we might have that somewhere because I know my wife was a rock. Well, I don't want to say she was a Roxette fan. I don't know whether she's still watching either. But maybe she was a Roxette fan. But I know we have a Roxette album somewhere. I don't know whether it's that one.
It's a great album, and perhaps one to do in the future.
Yes.
So next track, Sunday Girl. Oh my God, this is just
Yeah, and it was
Brilliant.
it was the fourth single. It wasn't even a lead single or a second single. It was the fourth single off the album, wasn't it?
It was, and this has got one of the best lyrics that I've ever seen, which cold as ice cream, but still as sweet.
Yeah.
Isn't that just fantastic?
And do you know what the song's about?
No.
Okay, the song you're gonna like this. The song was inspired by Debbie Harry's cat. He was called Sunday Man and had recently run away.
Right. Okay.
So some of the vocals here are quite plaintive in terms of the it's because she'd lost a cat.
Yeah. So well, what can you say? This is one of their best songs, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely fantastic.
Like he's in another world, running hearts on the girl. Hurry up and wait. I still wait all weekend, still I wait. I got the blues. Please come see what your loving means to me. She can't catch up with a lucky crowd. The weekend mood and she's busy.
So I just think this is absolutely tremendous, and that clapping.
Yeah, that's not pop punk. That's just pop, isn't it? It's pure.
It
pop,
is,
and it's just brilliant.
Yeah, and I think that one of it's very infectious, and it's also, I mean, lyrically, it's quite sophisticated. Although it's an abstract.
Well, she was missing her cat.
Yeah, it's like a love that's left you, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Which brings us on to their best known song, obviously. And I mean, I've got, in terms of notes, I will put the notes in the group. This has just got. I mean, do you want to talk about this for a while?
Well, I mean,
on this.
It was the third single off the album. It reached number 1, 10 weeks in the top 40 in the UK. The version I've got on the original album is about 3 minutes 54 seconds, something like that. Later versions of the album would include a remixed version of it, which is almost 6 minutes long, a remastered edition, and it became even more disco than it was. It started life as a song that they were playing around with that was called "Once I Had a Love," but in brackets, aka the disco song.
Right.
So they always knew it was a disco type song, but it's quite weird because Blondie at the time would have been playing in clubs like CBGB's in New York, the underground garage scene, the punk scene, and disco would have been a dirty word to them, and yet here they are coming up with an all-time classic disco tune that wouldn't be out of place if you put it up against ABBA, other bands like that, any other big names at the time that were doing disco music. And it was number 1 in 8 countries around the world. So it was universal success.
Yeah, Chris Stein said about this, we didn't expect the original to be that big. We only did it as a novelty item to put more diversity into the album. I mean, that's
up there then with New Order making Blue Monday because they wanted to try out the new drum machine, and then that let's make a disco song for a laugh. Oh, actually, it's going to be one of our biggest songs ever.
Yeah, it'll be the song that everybody thinks of first when they think of your band, and it kind of defines the band.
And it was a great video as well. I can picture the video of Debbie Harry on the dance floor and mirror balls and
So here we go. Heart of Glass.
Don't you miss I fear I'm losing you. It's just no good. You cheat like this.
Just fantastic.
It's brilliant.
Absolutely.
So also 12-year-old me loved the fact that she says the word arse in the lyrics a little
Yeah.
later on.
Well, do you know, it's funny because I was doing a live stream earlier and we were talking about using humour in business communications,
Yeah.
and whether or not it's okay. And one of the things that came up is bad language. And yeah, I mean, that was quite shocking, wasn't it? That there would be a song on the radio where somebody would say "pain in the arse."
Yeah. Well, I think for me, when I was reading the lyrics inside the album, seeing it spelt differently, because I'd always, when I've heard it pronounced where I grew up in London, there's definitely an R in there.
Absolutely, yes.
But obviously, this is the American spelling of ASS.
Yeah.
So I just saw Jim's comment about with a nod to Moroder. Yeah, definitely Giorgio Moroder. Yeah, definitely a nod to the sort of stuff that he was producing at the time. Yeah, definitely. Got used to Synth Disco. And going back to the previous track, to Sunday Guy, I noticed a couple of people were saying about the French version. So they recorded a French version, which was released as one of the other tracks on the 12-inch in the UK. And then it was re-recorded for a later version, maybe one of the greatest hits albums, where one of the verses was in French. So the original version was all in English. They did it in French, and then they re-recorded it, I think, for a greatest hits album, where one of the verses was French. And
yeah, that's a really good point. I don't think they beeped it. I think they did turn the volume down on the radio, though, didn't they?
Yeah.
Soon turned out to be a pain in. So brings us on to the penultimate track. I'm Gonna Love You.
Another cover.
And
it's a Buddy Holly song.
Yeah, and is that okay?
That's all right. And 12-year-old me would not have known that. But since when I found that out, I'm quite happy with that.
You're at peace with it, are you?
I am at peace with it, and got into a very interesting conversation with Harry earlier on, where I said it's a Buddy Holly cover, and he went, "No, Buddy Holly was in Weezer." He was joking. Obviously, the Weezer song Buddy Holly, and we had a very interesting conversation, stupid conversation about that. But I wouldn't have known that at the time, but yeah, I do like this.
So I'm Gonna Love You Too. I mean, it's so obviously Buddy Holly when you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You can hear him singing it, can't you? You can. Yeah. And Debbie Harry sounds like she's having great fun with the lyrics as well. Really enjoying singing that. Whether or not she was, but she sounds like she is.
Yeah. I mean, I think the album, it's so kind of bouncy. You can tell that there's a bit of joy in here, even though they were at each other's throats for some of the time.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose if ever I was to be asked, a band I wish I'd seen live but never did. Blondie was one of those. I saw Deborah Harry as she became when she released Deaf, Dumb and Blonde, her first solo album. I saw her do those songs, and obviously she did some Blondie songs as well. But I never saw Blondie the band play. And I think I'd have liked that. I do remember watching them. They did a BBC Two New Year's Eve thing. When you used to sync it with Radio 1.
Yeah.
They used to tell you to put your speakers either side of the TV for the best experience.
Yeah. And as my daughter pointed out, they used to wear badges that says Blondie is the name of the band.
Yeah. Well, I mean, talking of badges, I can show you the 3 original 70s badges I have right here.
Do you have them to hand?
I do have them to hand. Here's the first one. Let me see if I can get that. There you go.
Oh, yes. She's looking good there. Looking good.
So this one, the likeness isn't quite as good, and I think I might have picked this up in a cheap shop somewhere, but there you go.
Yeah.
It's got a nice...
bit more like Chrissy Hind.
Got a nice metallic effect on that one. And this one here is very of its time because it's actually a mirror. There you go.
Oh, yes. Nice. That's very good.
And I do have one other Blondie badge, but I don't have that one to hand because it's on a leather jacket that also belongs to me that I bought in 1985 that Harry wears regularly now. And the Blondie badge, he has that as well.
Nice.
So
interesting, this comment from Andrew. One album that's not aged for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it still sounds fresh. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're on to the last track. Just Go Away. No, not you.
Stay for the last track. Oh,
sorry. Have you got anything? Because I couldn't find any notes about this at all.
No, I've got nothing about this. Nothing about this.
Let's just luxuriate
in
that punk sound. Great. Again, fantastic lyrics. You've got a big mouth. I'm happy to see your foot is firmly entrenched where Molo should be. Yeah. Just brilliant. And it's one of the things, isn't it, that the sort of the way that they just flow in an effortless. The words flow in an effortless.
Yeah.
There's no.
You look at the words written down. You don't think they're going to flow in a song, do you? You do. How are they going to get that to scan with the music or the timing of the song? But it works, and I suppose a great song to finish on. Telling the listener to go away. Go on, off you go. You've listened to the album.
Yeah. Switch it off now and go to bed. Great. So it brings us to the end of the album. I mean,
or does it?
Oh,
because there is a song or a poem. I think it was written as called "Parallel Lines." So the words are on the inner sleeve, but it was never recorded as a song. So I could read it out, but I probably don't want to. So what I'll do is I'll put it in the chat afterwards. I'll put the words to the song / poem of Parallel Lines itself.
Yeah, and actually, whilst we're on the subject of things that could have been or should have been, I thought what was really interesting is that I found myself listening to the kind of the deluxe version of this.
Yeah.
And it's got an earlier version of Heart of Glass on it.
Yes, yeah.
And it's like, and one of the things that I was just amazed at is how can you produce a song like that and then say, actually, no, we're going to rework this? Because it was already brilliant.
Yeah. I'm going to turn that into a disco track.
Yeah. So a brilliant album. Thank you for for bringing it to the show. I have
you're welcome.
thoroughly enjoyed this week, and I hope you'll come back and do some more.
I will do. Yes, definitely. We need to think about what that might be. So yeah, just send me over some dates. And yes, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I haven't caught all the others, but I have caught some of them. I've enjoyed all the guest presenters as well. Who knows? You know, if Eric ever does come back, might not need him.
Yeah, we might not need him, but actually, it's a blast from the past. It's nostalgia, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things that is really interesting for me is not just the music and kind of listening with fresh ears and really diving deep into the album. It's what it brings back of the things that were going on at the time. And there isn't a show next week because obviously it's Good Friday, but the week after, it's Andrew Slessor is coming back, and we're going to do his second show, and we're doing Achtung Baby by U2.
Fantastic.
Now, I'm not a big U2 fan. I quite like Rattle and Hum as an album, but things like the Joshua Tree kind of leave me a bit cold. But that was one of those albums that, you know, there were big things happening. The Berlin Wall was coming down, and there was a whole new world of cornucopia of opportunities for people in Europe, particularly people in Eastern Europe. And I think that I love the way that the music of the time connects you to those events.
Absolutely. I mean, Achtung Baby. So this was one we did do in the version of this show that I ran in my last employment, called Album Club.
Yeah. We can't talk about that because that's like you talking about your ex-wife to me.
Yeah, it's like well, you can't talk about Album Club. It's not Fight Club. We can talk about Album Club. And Achtung Baby was a universally popular choice then. And for me, it's a big album because that's the album that me and my wife, when we first got together, that was the album we both listened to at the time. Our first dance at our wedding was to One by U2, which again, if you know what the song's about, it's an interesting choice, but it was our song.
Yeah, well, Ian, come on, mate. Struggle through the pain. If I can do it with Radiohead, OK Computer, you can do it with U2, Achtung Baby. So, Paul, thank you very much. Everyone in the audience, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Adam, for inviting me. It's been really good.
Very great pleasure, and we'll see you all next time.
Yeah, cheers, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Have a good